Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 150, The Emoji Critics, recorded on Friday, June 11th, 2021 from Zenatta Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
Yes, we shall. So we are doing a webinar on Zoho inventory overview and best practices. That will be next Tuesday, June 15th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. I still have not done a single slide for that yet, Tyler. Notice you haven't either. So we'll have to put that together this weekend. We have the outline. So we're,
You must not have checked it. I did. I got my screenshots. I put them in there. They're sitting there waiting for us. Yeah. I got a burst of energy last night. I had a cup of green tea and it really woke me back up. So I went ahead and just put together a big chunk of it.
I don't know. I'm going to have to get my mojo going. That deadline's rapidly approaching. And as always, if you head over to crmzen.com and click on events, you can see all the events that are coming up, not just from us, but from Zoho and other partners and those kind of things. So some kind of cool stuff coming up next week. Zoho People webinar, Zoho Creator webinar coming up, a panel discussion on improving your marketing with Zoho One. And that's being put on by the Zoho marketing team. Was it Dylan Mahout? Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's a different person on that team. But yeah, it's his team over there.
No, actually, when I clicked in and I looked at it, I think it's still Dylan. So he's got it going on. So you got some other people doing it. So that should be pretty good. So head on over there if you want to know what is the latest and greatest in the world of Zoho. And with that, let's get right on into the news. We'll start with Zoho Books. They've got some updates that came out. What's new in Zoho Books? You've got Zia Search. It's that's basically global search across all your Zoho applications has now been added into Zoho Books. Doesn't really improve the Zoho Book search, but Zoho Book search is fine. You just have to kind of got to know how to use it, and you always want to go to advanced whenever you're searching Zoho Books. But you got Zia, and this is it's funny. They did an update for the Zoho Books iOS app, which is cool, but this little line here, updates for organizations with Zoho inventory add-on. You can now edit or remove information related to after ship packages like carrier tracking number, shipping account, even after they're shipped. And you can edit sales orders received from Shopify directly into Zoho Books. That's ridiculous. That's huge. I mean, that's
a big update.
That's just been such a problem for so long, and it's just kind of like, oh, by the way, it's but pretty good update there. I know we've had, with Zoho inventory and Shopify, I know there's always some challenges around that. You think that'll make it a little easier?
Make it a little easier for some specific use cases. The trick would be is that I guess I'll need to play with it, because if you're editing it within Zoho Books, then you would go into Shopify and edit it there as well. But the interesting thing is Shopify has some weird rules around editing orders. Actually, one of our clients and a listener has kind of an interesting use case where they have to use a plugin just to edit orders on Shopify. So I'd be interested to dig into that and see. The interesting thing is if that opens it up for an API edit as well, that might be an interesting fix.
Would be. I mean, that's the whole inventory issue with all of the commerce platforms is just, keeping it all in sync and doing everything. And I think that would be helpful. And also for Zoho Books, you now have the Pay You extension. This is for India, in India only, but it's actually one of the larger payment platforms. And so now you've got the extension where you can actually go ahead and integrate Pay You into Zoho Books. Zoho does they do a really good job adding in these various platforms as they come up and they gain popularity. And you can now create extensions for Zoho projects using Sigma and drop them in as widgets. And they've actually built some little widget extensions off to the side now for Meeting, Cliq, and Harvest. Kind of nice. Do we have any extensions we're using currently in projects?
None inside of projects. We hit the API a lot from our custom app, but we don't use any of their specific plugins.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting with the one that they've got around Cliq. The Cliq plugin for projects has always been interesting, but not perfect for us because it creates a channel for each project. It'd be interesting to see if there's kind of a different use case using a widget where maybe you can spin it up into one or multiple kind of channels of communication around that.
Yeah. It's nice, but just the extensibility. And I think we're actually diving into Sigma right now in a big way. That's, if you don't know, Sigma is Sigma the hosting platform or the development platform? Sigma and Catalyst. Platform. That's the development platform, and then Catalyst is their Azure,
backend,
right? Yeah. Their cloud. Yeah. All right. And then moving on with the news, we've got the partner offers. So Zoho started this a while back, and so these are the April to June partner offers. So get on these; they're about to expire. But if you are, basically, these are partners that are discounting their marketplace applications. Mm-hmm. And I know we love Phone Burner, man. That's a good application.
Yeah, so if you're doing outbound dialing, Phone Burner is great, especially in the way it integrates with Zoho. It just makes a nice little workflow for you.
Yeah, and then they've got Panda Docs, so some big ones in here. I mean, if you really want to do some crazy proposals, Panda Docs is the only way to go. And they've got a very
ClickSend is a solid SMS. Same with SMS Magic. We've been using a lot of Nuanced IT's Twilio plugin, but both of those are rock solid if you need some SMS.
Yeah, good stuff. So check out the offers over in the Zoho Marketplace. Good stuff. The links will be in the show notes. All righty. And then, all right, Zoho Show added Twemoji and feather icons. Now, I'm not familiar with Twemoji, but I guess it's a thing. And feather icons. So they're kind of cool. So basically just a way to kind of spruce up your presentations in Zoho Show.
Gotcha. The more the merrier when it comes to these images. And yeah, I've not heard of Twemoji as well. Is that that's a third-party platform, I guess, that provides emoji services?
Yeah. Interesting. So you can get it and look at those.
3,000 emojis in their belt. So if you do want to bring those in, now you've got a little plugin for it.
It's always interesting how every service paints a different emoji. You know, I mean, you wherever you're at, you can look at it and it's like, that doesn't look like, when I'm on an Android phone, I'm like, slightly different.
And some of them are kind of funny. If any of our listeners have chatted to Zoho through their little chat bot, at the end, they'll always ask you for a rating with the 3 smiley faces. And I don't know if anyone else has noticed this. Maybe take a look at it next time you do that. I've always thought that the smiley face that they give you looks angry. It has a weird little anger to it, like its eyes are kind of. Anyways, won't go down a rabbit hole. But next time you chat Zoho support, let me know if you agree, because I've always thought that looks more angry than happy.
It's a slightly possessed emoji. I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's like if I look on, is it Android where you've got the laugh out loud where they're crying, right? It's the crying face. It's got like 2 waterfalls coming out of an eye, right? Whereas Apple's just got a couple, I don't know. I think we should be emoji critics, dude. There's a whole thing there. We can start a whole podcast just criticizing emojis.
There we go.
See where that goes. All right. And then Zoho Sprints added custom field support for epics. So if you are on Zoho, this is for iOS. So on iOS, you can now see the custom fields that you've put into your epics. So a really small update.
Small update, but a nice one to have.
Yeah, I don't think we can riff on this one too long. It's just not a lot here. So, yeah, it's nice. I mean, you see that the mobile stuff just kind of slowly moves over. I mean, when they eventually kind of get to it, just bit by bit by bit. So, there you go. And then moving on, Zoho People May updates. So a lot of improvements over to the LMS here. So this is kind of really a rundown of all of the updates that happened in May. I think we got most of these, but nothing really jumped out at me here. But most of this truly is around, they got consolidated reports, but the LMS stuff is pretty interesting.
They're kind of building that out. I mean, we talked about it a couple weeks back, and a bunch of different applications are now kind of serving as an LMS. So I'm sure as they build something cool in Zoho Learn, they'll go ahead and apply it to the Zoho People LMS and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and if you haven't tried out Zoho Learn yet, it is part of Zoho One, but it won't show up there. But if you go to learn.zoho.com, and then if you want to go ahead and just drop us a line over. It's actually, you know what? In the show notes, what I'll do is I'll put the link, and you can say, you can request that they add it to your Zoho One. And then they will actually give you a special link, and you can click on that link, and it's going to go ahead and add it to your Zoho One account. But it's a nice app. We're actually starting to use it now. I like what they've done with it. I mean, they've got a lot of LMSs out there, but it's getting better here. All right, and then Zoho Inventory, pretty much inventory tracks with books. So you kind of got the everything we just talked about in books, you've got over here in inventory. But here, in this article, they're giving you a little more details on the ability to edit after ship and do those kind of things.
Gotcha.
Pretty straightforward. And then Zia Search. So, one follows the other as it relates to the finance suite. All right, here's the big news. Dun, 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 dun. No, SalesIQ. Nope, we're not going to get to the big news yet. First, SalesIQ. Just a whole bunch of stuff that they've added to it. But I think the big one here is the PSA, Tyler.
Yeah, so this is something that we kind of discovered on our own site. So we use SalesIQ on our page for tracking web traffic, what people are going to what pages, kind of how we're sourcing things. And I had noticed that I pulled our reports, and a lot of our web traffic was way, way down. And it wasn't really tracking because, we're still getting, our kind of standard flow of activity on the website. And so what we did is we went ahead and had our web team investigate, and I sent them the embed code for the SalesIQ plugin that gets dropped into the footer of all the pages. And what we found is that it's different. Something has happened where the embed code is different. It seems to be in line with when they started rolling out SalesIQ 2.0. So if you are using SalesIQ on your website, you're going to want to review this. Go into SalesIQ, make sure that you're looking at the 2.0 interface, and go ahead and grab that embed code and re-add it to your website to replace the old one. Not something that we saw in any of their updates, but something that we wanted to spread now that we have found it ourselves, as it basically turned off SalesIQ as far as web tracking is concerned.
Yeah, it's bad. I don't think they know it yet. I mean, it's all been in the last couple of days. I guess someone must have known it, but it couldn't have been intentional. I mean, could it? I just don't think I just don't think they intentionally did that. I think someone made a mistake, made a slight tweak to the code, and somehow it just broke everything. Because there's nothing when you upgrade that says, oh, by the way, when you're going to the new version, be sure to switch your code over. And
normally they're pretty aggressive about letting you know about that. Like when they changed over Marketing Hub to Marketing Automation, and that required that if you're using the WordPress plugin, you had to update it to a new version to make sure it keeps working. And they put that disclaimer on everything around marketing automation. So I agree with you. It seems like an error, but something that we still wanted to put out there. And we'll probably do a follow-up on it if Zoho does make any comment on it or let us know what the proper avenue is. But for right now, you're basically going to want to check that code against what is in SalesIQ and replace it if necessary.
Yeah. All right. And then more with SalesIQ. They've been rolling these out. It's not really news. It's just all part of this SalesIQ 2.0. And it's just all the additional features and all the new things you can do. And this is one I know we've been waiting for a long time, but this is kind of a deep article on codeless bots and response blocks.
Mm-hmm. And so they kind of go through a bunch of these, and these are all the different ways that you can give someone a button to press and have it branch into some various other actions. It's a little bit interesting. I actually got my hands dirty on this and set one up. So you have these various response blocks. I will say they all kind of seem to work the same. Like when you had an option versus a button, when I was testing the difference between the two, I could not tell any effective difference. Other than, I guess, maybe some of the post-processing that you do after you've implemented it. But this basically just gives you a ton of different options for how to give them some suggested prompts that you can then route into the next steps. I will say, though, after jumping in and doing it, of course, it's early. They're going to continue to improve it. It's very powerful. I mean, I can recognize all the things that you could do in code, and you're just dragging and dropping them right into the page. So it's kind of a nice little breakdown of some of these different options that you have in terms of doing some branching. But nonetheless, it's a pretty slick little build that they've done here for these codeless bots.
Yeah. So this is it. So the old Zobot coding it from hand should be over with. I imagine you could still do that, but you shouldn't. Just because
Yeah,
of
we
the
need
amount of
to.
time it takes.
I haven't seen anything yet. That we didn't ever dive too deep into building them out in code. So maybe there's some additional things that you might not be able to do quite yet. But so far, in terms of like a simple bot asking some questions, routing them to the proper page or routing them to the proper operator, it's all there and pretty easy to set up.
All right, and then more on the, you can now connect SalesIQ visitors via Facebook Messenger. So you basically can talk through Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, it looks like you're actually
chat
dropping SalesIQ into a Facebook page and using it as the chat engine. It's kind of an interesting one.
So I guess for people that are living out of Facebook Messenger, there you go. Something good for you there. And also they've got the new B2B customers. This is, I'm not sure what this is. They've got it's the company module. We talked about this. So
and this is a pretty big update because what this does is once you have a visitor identified, like you've connected their tracking to their record in your CRM, you can then branch their interactions based on CRM data. And so when I was poking around with the codeless bot builder, you could bring in like a decision block in essence, and you can have it decide which way to go based on a field in the CRM account. So if you knew, let's say you worked with two primary industries, finance and engineering, if you know those identifiers on their account, you could have the bot prompt them with different questions based on how they're categorized in the CRM. They're making some really, really big steps with the whole B2B side of SalesIQ because it was really lacking before 2.0.
Yeah. I mean, this is this whole new SalesIQ. It's right. It takes it up there with some of the other ones that are out. I mean, what's the big one that everybody uses?
Drift. Drift is pretty popular. I've not worked with too many.
I don't know. There's one that starts with an I. I can't think of the name of
Iterable?
Maybe.
Iterable mostly does email marketing, but
this is one I don't know. It'll come to me. But it's up. I mean, SalesIQ now is just blown out into such a huge application that does so much more than it ever used to do. And it's doing more and more. I mean, one of the reasons for the big delay in case everybody hasn't noticed, but Marketing Hub, now Marketing Automation, horrible name, Zoho, change it again. And it is delayed. The updated version was supposed to be out back in October, and then it was pushed, and they said, well, no problem, it'll be out in Q2 of this year. And now because of COVID and some other things, it's being delayed again. But one of the other big things about the delay is they're integrating into the SalesIQ. So a lot of the stuff that sat in all of the tracking that was in Marketing Hub is now actually going to be part of SalesIQ, and the SalesIQ is going to talk to Marketing Hub /automation. It's going to take forever for me to change the name on that, start saying, but there's a lot going on there. And I think that it makes sense. I mean, it really does make sense.
So. Bring it all under one house. Because that was always the interesting thing with Marketing Hub is that it had this web tracking, but it wasn't as good as SalesIQ and PageSense.
Yep.
And so you were always better off kind of housing everything in the CRM and then using campaigns, PageSense, and SalesIQ. But now those three applications are basically going to be what's powering marketing automation now. It makes it a much, much better product because, all those other individual products Zoho has are great.
Yeah.
And it's intercom. I think it's intercom that you're thinking about.
I think it is. Yes. Thank you. Oh, it's to be young and have your brain intact, I tell you what. Anyway. All right, let's move on to our implementation of the week. We're still not doing the one that we've been talking about, man.
I don't know how it works yet. I need a that's a Josh special. I need a little help understanding.
I know we probably need to make a video about that, but for what we're talking about here is a couple of weeks ago, we're doing something internally and we're doing a launch. And part of it is we want to have a unique image for every single email that's specific to the person that's going out. and we're sending this email out, and we actually figured out how you can pull an image from a contact record or any record and embed it into a email template when you're doing a mass email out. So you can pull an image from the record and do it. Which is, I don't know, maybe other people have done it. We've never seen it before. And the workaround is so slick, but it's a little complicated. So we'll have to we'll get with Josh. But anyway, what do we have this week?
Yes, this is one that we did, and we may have mentioned it a little while back now, but we've just continued to build on top of it more and more. So I wanted to circle it back around. This is basically one-click Zoho sign document management via the CRM. So the CRM does have a plugin for Zoho Sign, and you can install that plugin and you can click through and choose a template and pull from your deal record and send it out. And then they also have the ability to do mail merge templates, which you kind of click through, you prepare the document, upload it to Sign, and then send it out that way. But both of those methods have two primary drawbacks that they kind of share. The first one is that they take a lot of clicks. So if you're in a really high velocity industry, or if you're sending out a lot of Zoho Sign documents, it does add up. I mean, to get through that process, it might be a minute or two per document. So if you're sending out a lot per day, as you'd imagine, that can add up to some real work hours. And then the other issue with both of those methods is that anything that's going to go into the document needs to be directly linked to wherever you're starting it from. So if you're looking at a deal, you could pull the info from the related contact. And if you're using a mail merge, you could even pull it from a subform or related list. But there's a lot of use cases where you might want to pull in some data that's not directly related. So one use case of that, maybe you have trade addresses in each state, and you need that trade address to go onto your sign document. In order to do that with any of the other methods, you'd have to have a trade address record generated and linked to the deal every time, rather than just having a reference table of all your trade addresses. But when you do this through Deluge, if you have that deal under an account, well, you can go to that account, you can get the state that it's in, and then you can go and just search that other database and pull back your trade address and use it to create the document. And so we're finding more and more that there's just so many hurdles you can skip by doing this with Deluge. Whether it's pulling in, reference tables, whether it's, using logic to decide, hey, I want to look at the related list, but I don't want to pull in every single item from it. I want to apply a filter and only pull in ones in a certain status or above a certain dollar amount, which you can do when you're going through mail merge, but then you end up having to manually delete rows and size things back up and kind of clean up the document. So we wanted to kind of circle this one back around because we've just found more and more demand for it. And just so many use cases where this is useful. The biggest one too that I kind of want to highlight is that generally we're doing this with a button press. It doesn't have to be that way. Someone could fill out a Zoho form, and just based on that form submission, they're created in the CRM. It triggers the workflow. You send out the signed document. So when it comes to just getting contracts into people's hands faster to increase that sign rate, we found this to be a really, really useful tool.
That's slick. Yeah, I like the fact that you can pull from a completely separate data source that's not even related to the record. I mean, you could have every record pull that data source, and anytime it was this, go ahead and update that. But then you'd have to change all the records, and this is it's a nice, nice implementation across the board. All right, and that brings us to our read of the week. Oh, before we get to the read of the week, kind of another random thing is was it a month or so ago that we noticed that you could actually do conditional statements inside a writer?
Yep.
Right. And we still have we still not seen an announcement on it, or was there an announcement?
I haven't seen an announcement. I actually only found out about it because I was messaging with a Zoho team member, and I mentioned that's the one last thing that we need to change over our own processes. And they linked me to an article. I felt kind of silly. It was a good find anyways, but we had just never seen that it was released.
Yeah, so we're actually doing a lot with this. So we're moving our entire contract phase over now, using just a mail merge template inside a CRM and using these conditional statements. It is slick, man. I mean, for the longest time, the only way you could really get that done was with form stack documents or some other third party, proposal tool. But man, I mean, it makes for one rather long raw proposal when you get everything in there, but it's pretty nice too. So I just want to bring that back up because we mentioned it, and now that I like it a lot, man.
Yeah, it's one interesting thing with Zoho, and we talk about it all the time, but just like because you have this common layer of Deluge across all the applications, you can kind of get Zoho to do things that these other products are doing that are specialized.
Right.
So something like form stack, you can build your own form stack, right? If you know the Deluge to do it and you kind of have some of that baseline.
Right.
So it's just really cool to see them continue to add more and more that's accessible for us to automate.
Yeah, and we're going to have to do that with this because form stack attached the document to the record, right? Created a folder and then dropped it also in the folder and did all of that. So we'll want to do that. Now, I actually want it to be, we'll talk about this from a Deluge basis, but what I'd really like for it to do is to be dropped in that folder. And then from the folder, I want that link to be attached. Because the strange thing is if you have any document at all that is attached to its writer, even though it looks like it's a writer document, and you're in a CRM record and you just click on it, you cannot edit it. It opens it in
Writer. A view
version. It pulls up a view version. But if the document is specifically attached from WorkDrive and you click on it, then you can go ahead and you can edit and you can make the changes to it. It's just a small little thing. I've never been able to figure out why it is that way, but we'll work around it now with the script. And that brings us to our read of the week. I went back to HubSpot for this one. 3 reasons consumers read blogs and how to attract them. Is blogging dead? Is it not dead? We truly believe in blogging, and we've done a whole lot of back end on this, but and I love this because it's like, why do you read blog posts? To learn something new, right? And I think that's why everybody comes to us, although some of our blogs can be entertaining. But it's really kind of dives in. It's got some, as always with HubSpot, nice research on, blogs and how to attract people and what they do and what they should be. So I like this already.
Yeah. And I think the trick is with that is to really just focus on the quality. I mean, if we use ourselves as a case study, like we made a change to how our blogs were being written and managed and really improved the quality, and you see the traction go up on them. The time per page, the attention that people are putting on them. It's worth the effort to really make sure that your blogs are providing that useful or entertaining or relevant information to someone.
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, this was updated. They published this a year ago. We may have covered it a year ago. Looks like May 2020, but it was a nice update with new data and good stuff. So check that out. As always, HubSpot does some amazing stuff there with their blogs. All right. And that brings us to what's happening over at Zenatta.com. Speaking of blogs, we've got one, Zoho Desk, building your knowledge base. And so we will take that bit by bit. We've got our kind of drop our knowledge base video in there. And on top of this, so you put the two together, you can watch a video, you can read the article. We give you so many choices. By the way, I do love our new little inline ads, Tyler.
Yep. Shout out to Tavin, our designer on these.
Shout out to Tavin, yeah. So we run these little things. Mostly it's just announcing, hey, we've got a webinar coming up or we've got this coming up. But sometimes it's like, hey, buy our health check service, or in this case, our website performance optimization service. And anyway, he did a nice job redoing those. So, and then we also have top 5 features of Zoho survey. And so we've got basically the 5 reasons you want to use Zoho survey and how they all work and integrate. And again, I think pretty good stuff from the team. I'm happy.
Gotta love Zoho survey. Such a nice integration to the CRM there.
Yeah. Do you know, Greg was telling me something. He and Tavin are doing some crazy thing with Zoho survey. What is it?
It's going to be an implementation eventually, but I'll do a little teaser. So with Zoho surveys, you can actually have it, and you can't do this in forms. This is unique to surveys, but when a survey is submitted, you can actually run Deluge on that. So in the same way that you could integrate it to the CRM, you could, run a webhook, you can just run a big block of Deluge code. And so without giving away the whole implementation, basically we're taking a survey submission and based on some numerical answers, we're creating some chart elements in HTML and then emailing them out to that survey respondent to kind of give them a roll up of, where they fall on certain metrics or goals and things like that. So really, really powerful tool to just be able to do that, right? Query all the answers you got, organize them, embed the answers into an HTML block, and then shoot it out from there.
Slick. So they get instant feedback on whatever they did.
Yep.
Tailored to them. Slick. Yeah, it was not trivial from what I understand.
Oh.
Greg's
not trivial.
Like, yeah, I was like, well, hey, what are you going to do? What are you doing this weekend for fun? Oh, I'm solving this problem. It's still. So anyway, I'm glad they did that. All right. And then we've got our new resources guide, getting started with email deliverability inside of Zoho campaigns. So this is always an issue. I think they've published a couple of these, not only campaigns, a marketing hub inside the CRM, but get your DNS servers all up to date. And anyway, they've got a nice article here. And deliverability always seems to be a bigger issue, I think, with the Zoho products than other products out there. So you really do have to pay attention. I mean, the fact that you have different, SPF records and DKIM records for virtually every application,
Yeah.
You think you've got it dialed. And it would be nice if they just had one that ran across. Hopefully that'll
I would think,
soon.
Honestly, I think the best they could ever do is two, because they have a transactional mail platform that powers like the CRM and bookings and Deluge.
Right.
And then they have the marketing mail platform. But if they could get it down to two, that would be a lot less than it is now. So Hopefully that's the target.
All right. And this takes us to our application of the week. This is brand new inside of Zoho Marketplace, and I have not signed up for it yet, but I hadn't heard of these guys, GoCardless, but they've raised a lot of money, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And it looks like they're going after Stripe, but they're doing it with ACH and debit cards. So, we were talking the other day about the tens of thousands of dollars that are paid out every year to credit card processors by us. And, it's like, gosh, if you're using credit cards, I mean, you're basically paying 3%, right? 2.9% plus 30 cents a transaction. Yeah, you can go to a processor and you can get it based on an individual basis. I don't know why Congress has never looked into this, but Chase WePay is 2.9%. Square is 2.9%. I mean, they're all virtually exactly the same fees that they charge, plus the 30 cents a transaction and all of that. So this is a new integration that basically from GoCardless, this is for CRM. I would imagine it's got to be coming to books shortly. But you can collect debit cards, ACH, 1% fee plus 25 cents a transaction with a $2.50 max charge.
Okay, so can a customer not swipe a card through this? Does it have to be done with ACH? I would imagine.
Well, I think from what I gather, you can input, and I've got to look into it, but it basically looks like you can do both ACH and debit card.
Got it.
Right. So someone could actually, I guess, do it on a debit card. But I don't know. It's interesting. And it's just a huge savings, $2.50 a transaction. I mean, you got Bill.com does something like this as well. And I don't know if they're going to be holding on. Bill.com will hold on to the money for 7 days, but you also get 100% of it. Right. And I'm not sure a lot of companies want to do ACH, but this company's really getting a lot of traction. If you Google them, there's just a lot going on there, but pretty cool.
It's interesting to see new products pop up in that space, because all you got to do is beat that 2.9%, right? And that's the target, right? And everyone's kind of after it. So it'll be interesting to see how the space continues to evolve.
Yeah. And this whole, the whole fintech sector is just exploding. I mean, so many different people trying to solve so many different problems, and the banks always get in the way, man. They've got the credit card companies. They're profitable for a reason, but I think this is an interesting solution. So I'm going to try it out and we'll report back on it, but brand new inside of the marketplace. So go ahead and check that out as well. And that brings us to our tip of the week. This is the last, I believe, of our WorkDrive beginner series. And this was labels, favorites, and following documents. That's it. Set up and apply labels. It's a great video. Tyler and I
quick little walkthrough.
Take you through everything that you need to do. Love WorkDrive. Honestly, I think these 5 videos that we did in the WorkDrive series, you watch those, you're kind of good to go. Yeah. I don't think there's really not much more
pretty
to
teach. Easy. Yeah, it's pretty easy to use once you kind of know just where the buttons are and kind of what means what and how it was designed to be put together.
Yeah. All right, that brings us to our Q&A. Jessica, what's up with Zoho Social with all the marketing tool changes? Will it be getting some improvements or absorbed by the other tools? I don't think so. I mean, didn't they just do a major overhaul of Zoho Social?
They've been rolling out more plugins and things like that for it.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's on their roadmap for marketing automation. I'd want to double check it, but I think they're keeping that in a separate bucket as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, they wanted to just sit out there as its own. I mean, they did add Instagram to it recently, but it's quasi-limited. Instagram, like when you do one of those little like cards, like the card decks, you can have 10. Zoho randomly limits you to 4. There's some bizarre things around it. It's a very good application though, but I'm not sure it's, I don't know. I think if you're just doing basic social media marketing, it does a fine job with brands and it gets there. But I don't know, Jessica. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but we'll get there. And Kevin was saying that the interface when you're building a Zobot, is that right? When you're building the bot, the interface on Safari is a problem with all the cards being stacked together.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah, I built mine on Brave.
Yeah.
So I would assume Chrome would probably work fine as well. Interesting that it would have an issue on Safari, knowing that Zoho is such an Apple house themselves. I guess it wouldn't be too surprising if it's handling it a little differently.
Yeah, could just be a Safari issue. I don't know. I mean, Apple's been pushing out some crazy updates to Safari lately, and they're about to do a whole new refresh of Safari, I think, with the new, what is it, Monterey? That's the new desktop operating system, Monterey. So who knows? And Cody says that Safari has a lot of little Zoho issues. Interesting. Yeah, I'll tell you what, Cody, we switched to Brave. I don't know if you guys have not tried out Brave. It'll pull all your stuff in from Chrome, all your extensions in. You go to the Google Chrome store and it installs it into Brave. You don't have to use an ad blocker, man. It just puts everything. It is slick. I mean, I love Brave across the board. It's saves a lot of time. I mean, if you're watching the video right now, what does it say I've done? It's blocked 115,000 trackers and ad blocks, saved 2.53 gigabytes of space, and saved me 1.6 hours. That allows me to watch more TV shows. All right, Tyler, let's wrap it up. If you have any questions or comments, please head over to zenatta.com or crmzen.com and drop us a line.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. As always, you can follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.